In this video, we're going to be discussing Lucifer is not Jesus. Just want to clear that up. You might be thinking, well, what a strange topic, and who really is confusing Lucifer and Jesus? Well, I want to tell you there's a whole religion that does this. It is called Freemasonry. If you don't believe me, here's a video of a Shriner Freemason, and he just flat out admits that Lucifer is God and that Lucifer should be worshipped.
Sir, you need to be born again.
I am born again.
Now, did you just say that you are Lucifer?
I am Lucifer.
Okay, define Lucifer for me.
Pure, virtuous, wholesome, innocent individual that's out to help people.
Lucifer is?
Yeah.
Say that again. Lucifer is a pure, holy...
Virtuous.
Virtuous. Now, is he the Lucifer that God created?
That's the same one.
So there we go. You see an allegiance to Lucifer here, even admits that he is the created being that God created. It's pretty wild. Now, if you've ever met a Freemason who's high enough in rank, they will admit that Lucifer should be worshipped, that Lucifer and Jesus are the same person. And the reason I know this is because I, in my early 20s, was approached by a Freemason who was sort of masquerading as a Christian, claiming to be writing a book about Freemasonry and being a practicing Christian. It was the other way around. He was a practicing Freemason trying to get Christians into the Masonic Lodge. And he approached me. He thought I would make a good candidate for the Masonic Lodge. That really opened my eyes to what Freemasonry really was. I had no sort of interest in Freemasonry before that. I kind of knew it existed. It was kind of creepy and weird. To be honest, I thought it was kind of gay. Bunch of men going into a room with no windows, secretly touching each other with these secret handshakes. Sounded pretty lame. But then he started telling me things like Jesus and Lucifer are the same person, and he made appeals to like Isaiah 14 verse 12, and 2 Peter 1:19, and Revelation 22:16. So in this article, I actually go through all of these verses that were used against me to try and convince me to worship Lucifer by a Freemason. And I'm going to show you the problems with this type of ideology, this type of thinking. So this article that I'm going to be reading can be found on theonerds.net, and you're welcome to look up all the references and the things I cover here. Let's start off by examining this warning by C.S. Lewis. We don't make an ass out of Christ. And I'm going to make an appeal to the work of C.S. Lewis. His last book in the Narnia series, The Last Battle. Puzzle, this donkey, finds this lion skin and is forced by this ape Shift to put this lion skin on, and then this ape sort of masquerades this donkey wearing a lion skin as Aslan, the true king of Narnia. And it's a great little depiction of the coming globalist society we're going to be entering in this global religion, where the false prophet's going to masquerade this beast as the Christ, when really it's going to be as ridiculous as a donkey wearing the garbs of a lion's skin. It's going to be absolutely foolish. We need to be vigilant of this coming reality. It's because the scriptures tell us that this coming reality is going to happen. Jesus said in the last days there'd be great deception, right? In Matthew 24, false Christs, false prophets, great deceptions. That there would be a great delusion before the coming of Christ that Paul mentions in 2 Thessalonians 2:10-12. And we also know that one of the desires of the devil is that he seeks worship. And this was really manifest in Matthew chapter 4, the temptation of Jesus. He says here, if you fall down and worship me, the devil seeks worship. And it's really interesting. If you go back and look at Matthew chapter 4, the temptation of Jesus, you'll see that there's 3 stages of Luciferianism. Right? The first temptation was Lucifer trying to get Jesus to simply obey him. Turn these stones into bread. Just obey me. The second one was worship me. And then the final temptation was become me. He tempts Jesus to jump off the temple and fly. We know that Satan is the prince and the power of the air. In Job, it says that he walks up and down the earth. That's the sort of stages that something like Freemasonry, which is really just a system to worship Lucifer, engages in. It's first obey me, worship me, then be me. And that's the lie of all occultic mystery schools, secret society. So I just uncovered every school of the occult to save you a bunch of time. Is that the secret of the mystery schools, the hidden wisdom that they hide, and the science that they tout is nothing more than the foolishness that you can become God if you worship the devil and do what he says. But now let's get into this subject of Lucifer being confused with Jesus. So behold the bringer of the dawn. The term Lucifer itself comes from Isaiah 14 verse 12. Is that the term Lucifer actually is from the Latin Vulgate. That's where the word is derived in English. I don't particularly find the Latin Vulgate a particularly good translation of the Bible. I would prefer to use the translation that the apostles themselves used, which was the Greek of the Old Testament, which is the Septuagint. Now, if you don't know what the Septuagint is, we have an article here on theonerds.net. that it goes through what is the Septuagint and why you need one. And you really should pick up a Septuagint. They're great. In a nutshell, the Septuagint is just the Greek translation of the Old Testament that was used by the apostles during the time of Jesus. By using the Septuagint, the Greek, we can then easily compare the words used in the Old Testament with the New Testament. So we'll find that the word Lucifer in Greek is this word, hierosphoros. And forgive me if I'm butchering the pronunciation of these words. I am learning Greek, but I might not be pronouncing these correctly. When we cross-reference this term, hierosphoros, the Lucifer, and the LXX, the only other place it's found is in Job. Right? So it's in Job 11 and Job 36:12, and it's both is in the context of the dawn. So there seems to be a connection between this word, Lucifer, with the dawn. Here's the key, and this is really undermines this idea that Lucifer is Jesus, or the same as Jesus, is that the Greek word for Lucifer is never used in the New Testament. It's never used in the New Testament. So when we go to these different passages, which we'll go to here in a sec, and like Revelation 22:16, 2 Peter 1:19, it's a different word that's being used. So anyone who's trying to tell you that Lucifer and Jesus is the same is either deceived or a deceiver. So now the three texts that we're going to be looking at is in Revelation 22:16, which it says, I, Jesus, sent my angel to testify to you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star. And this word is here in the Greek, orthonios astate. Morning star is what this breaks up into. 2 Peter 1:19 uses a similar term when referencing Jesus Christ. It says, and so we have the prophetic word confirmed, which you do well to heed as a light that shines in the dark place until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts. So the morning star here. So the word is phosphorus, or light bearing, is the term that's used. The etymology of hierosphoros, Lucifer, is dawn bearing. So there's the difference here. We have light bearing and morning star and dawn bearing. So it's one who brings forth the dawn, the one who is a harbinger of the dawn. So we have similar but different terms being used here to describe Jesus and Satan. There's eschatological implications for the name Lucifer. The key to understanding the eschatology behind the word Lucifer is to have an understanding of Venus. Venus is the one planet that can be seen with the naked eye as the sun is rising. It could be easy to mistake Venus as being the source of the light during the dawn. As time progresses, as the sun rises, eventually the true sun arises and completely fills up the sky. Venus just disappears. Venus is the type of the Antichrist, which will arise before the Son of God, Jesus Christ, the brightness of the day, arises and comes to the earth. We know that Venus has a specific emphasis in the occult because if we examine its orbital pattern, you will see that it forms a rose or a pentagram. And we know that this whole secret society is based upon the Rosicrucians. And the pentagram, we see pentagrams everywhere. Pentagram, of the 5-star shape, is the orbital pattern of Venus. Therefore, Venus is Lucifer. Venus is the dawnbringer. It is a picture of the devil. As the sun rising is a picture of Christ and his return. Before the sun rises, the devil will appear. Now, Michael Heiser here from the Unseen Realm fame argues that the emphasis of the aforementioned text is on brightness. Stars thereby represent spiritual authority, and Christ, the brightest, the sun, to our perceptions, is the star of stars, so to speak. And I outline that here, and I have a source here if you can look that up if you wanted to see Michael Heiser's take on these passages. Now, we have to understand that one of the key desires of Lucifer is to imitate Christ. And there are many passages in the Bible, which I've linked here, in which the devil shares similar titles with Jesus Christ. So, for example, we know that Jesus is the light of the world, but we know that the devil transforms himself as an angel of light. We know that the devil is like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour in 1 Peter 5:8. We know that Jesus is a lion of the tribe of Judah. We see in Revelation 13, verse 11, that the false prophet is like a lamb that speaks like a dragon. We know that Jesus is the Lamb of God. We have in Zechariah 11:17 describing the Antichrist as the worthless, the idle, the derelict shepherd, when Jesus is the good shepherd. And we see that the devil is the serpent that deceives. We have a picture of Jesus being a serpent in John 3:14. We're talking about his death to Nicodemus, that the Son of Man must be lifted up as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness. So we see that there's a similarity here in titles between Christ and the devil. And it's clear that the devil wants to imitate Jesus Christ, that the devil wants to be in the place of Christ and assume his titles. The final religion of the world is going to be Luciferianism. And this comes from Revelation 13, verses 14 to 17. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. So this is where we get into the right eye. His right eye being damaged by a sword and his right hand. So he was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as should not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So this here is the final world religion. It's the worship of an image of the beast. It's the worship of Lucifer, because the beast represents the devil. The beast represents the embodiment of Satan on earth, just as Christ represents God on earth. He is God on earth. The beast is Satan on earth. So the final world religion will be the worship of Lucifer. And then look, he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their hand, on their foreheads, that no one should buy or sell, except one who has a mark of the name of the beast, the number of his name. So this is important. This is telling us three things. That in the last days, there's going to be, one, a global government that can enforce these global laws. Two, there's going to be a global religion. You have to worship the beast. And then three, there's going to be a global economy, because you cannot buy or sell unless you are in this system. I believe that the final world religion that it's talking about here, the final government and economy, is going to be technocracy, because technocracy is a form of government and it's a form of economy, and it's where our world is currently heading. It's heading towards global technocracy. And I believe that the final world religion is going to be Luciferianism. It's going to be devil worship. So do we see devil worship today? Well, I'm going to argue that yes, we have. This idea of progress is nothing more than Satanism or Luciferianism rebranded. And if we were to compare so-called progress with the ideas that are encapsulated within the Masonic Lodge, Freemasonry, Luciferianism, is that both of these systems, they exalt pride. They see pride as a virtue. They invert morality. They make that which is evil good, that which is good evil. Pride, which is the one of the key attributes of the devil, right? He desires God's position. He desires to ascend into heaven and be like the Most High, but he will be brought down to the pit. When they follow Satan, they mimic his attributes. The foundation of his attributes is pride. Both of these systems believe in subjective epistemology, that there's no objective truth. They reject God's word. It's all about your personal feelings, which ultimately then devolves into might makes right, pragmatism. If you can get away with it, do it. If it feels good, do it. The next thing is that both of these systems embrace homosexuality, feminism. I'm putting feminism and homosexuality together because they're basically two sides of the same coin. Feminism really just seeks to make women into men and to despise true masculinity. And homosexuality is just the feminization of men. And again, the rejection of God and society. Okay, well, we understand that this progress religion embraces point number 3 here. But what, Satanism, really? When I was in film school, I had the pitiful experience of being shown Kenneth Anger short films. I wasn't told this was from Kenneth Anger. I was just shown these short films, and I was thinking, this looks satanic. I wonder who made this. And when the lecturer said, oh, this is a film by Kenneth Anger, I almost fell out my chair. I was like, why are they showing us films by a well-known Satanist? And here's Kenneth Anger, and he does a short film, and it's super gay. It has all this sort of homoerotic sexual innuendo around this car and these men. Here he's polishing this instrument in a very suggestive way. It's going past his butt and things like this, and it's super gay. So Satanism is gay. it's full-on homosexual. Here's another film. You can see Scorpio Rising. You see a bunch of homo dress up. Like, there's nothing manly about this. Satanism, so-called progress, they both espouse homosexuality. Now, the next one is PDF files, if you know what I mean by that term. Both of these systems embrace this form of depravity. There's this documentary by Good Fight Ministries, which I highly recommend, called The Kinsey Syndrome. Again, this is a very disturbing documentary, but it connects Aleister Crowley's belief system with Kinsey, and this then leads to the modern psychology and the crazy that we're currently facing in society. Here on theonerds.net, we have an article that goes through 5 creepy quotes by Satanists, some including Anton LaVey. And creepy satanic quote number 3, the encumbrances of child protection. So you can see this satanic ideology with PDF files in Anton LaVey's writings. It's all there. So the next point that we will be covering is transgenderism. There is this book written by Malachi Martin called Hostage of the Devil, which uncovers various testimonies of exorcisms or people who have been demon possessed. And in this book, which was written in the 80s, there's an example of someone who embraces transgenderism, who attributes those desires to demons. And this particular person in this book goes to a satanic ritual, and that's where they embrace their idea of transgenderism. This is a dark read. I wouldn't really recommend this for people, but if you do want to make that connection between transgenderism and Satanism, this book highlights this. Another example of connecting the occult and mystery school Satanism to transgenderism can be found in Proofs of a Conspiracy by John Robinson. Here's an example here, October 5th and 6th, 1789. During the French Revolution, one of the leaders of the Illuminati that was behind the French Revolution, he was with men disguised in mean dress, and some in women's clothes. So he was with a group of people that were dressed like women. And then, again in the morning, he was seen with the same persons in women's dress. There was men cross-dressing during the French Revolution. These Illuminists were celebrating, and they were cross-dressing. And then finally, pro-death. It says in the book of Proverbs, those who hate me love death. Both of these ideologies hate God and therefore love death. And both of these systems espouse the murder of children in the womb, calling it a rite, calling it something that should be celebrated. Here we have a satanic temple creating a propaganda video calling for the death of children, calling it a religious rite.
The Satanic Temple advances many just causes that protect the religious rights of our members. We champion pluralism and have repeatedly taken legal action to assure that Satanists receive the same treatment as members of other faiths. Our ability to practice our beliefs has been aided by the enactment of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. This law generally prohibits the government from interfering with a person's free exercise of religion, which includes the performance of religious rituals.
There we go. So they call the slaughter of children a religious ritual. You can watch all of this if you like, if you want to throw up. We need to stop thinking of this system of belief as being woke, as being progressive, as being some new idea. It's not. It's just a rebranding of old ideas. No, I want you to think of this, when you take the mask off, it's just Satanism. What is the fruits of this type of ideology in society? Well, Ireland is a great example to look at. Ireland, under the ministry of Patrick, for 700 years had an independent church here, which was disconnected from Romanism. And it produced some of the greatest works that humanity has seen. The Book of Kells here is an example of the scriptures being beautifully illustrated. So this is art from Ireland with Christ, and this is what art in Ireland without Christ looks like. This is what a nation can devolve into when it rejects Christ and embraces this religion of woke. And Ireland is a very woke country. It's a very so-called progressive country. But at the end of the day, this is what this leads to. It leads to just full-out Satanism, because it's the same thing, same ideology. This is the kind of global government we were all expecting. Or I think a lot of people were expecting would happen in the future, but it actually turned out to look more like this. So the global government is looking like currently. And as you can see, this, the cult of cardboard is everywhere. As you see, they all have their right eyes covered. This guy is a PDF file. He wrote a book about a group of children doing it in the sewer. And only someone who has a corrupt and depraved mind would commit an idea like that to paper. It's very important that we start calling this religion, this ideology, for what it is, Satanism. We call it Antichrist. Because this is what the Reformers did. When the Reformers, facing the globalism of their day, which was the Roman Catholic Church, this centralized institution that wanted to control all areas of life in a way that was deeply satanic, the Reformers didn't call it by the terms that the Roman Catholic Church called it. They didn't call them the Roman Catholic Church. They called them the Church of Antichrist. The Pope was called the Antichrist. And this is, if you look back at the official court documents of Queen Elizabeth, they refer to the papists as the Antichrist, sugarcoat that terminology. And we need to go back and do what the Reformers did, and we need to start using the correct terminology for this world religion, because this is going to be the final world religion on the earth. It's going to be the worship of Lucifer. Make sure to check out this video we did on Freemasonry. It's really important that you have an understanding of what Freemasonry is, what it teaches, and how it contradicts the scriptures.